Can everyone hit me? So we're staying local, and we're moving from the Amazon, Orinoco, where they are, and we're going into the third biggest basin in Colombia, to the Magdalena River Basin. And that video is so that you guys get an impression of the area that we're talking about. The last standing primary forests in the Mid-Magdalena River Basin. It's an impressive place, and I will hope to convince you that this is one of the greatest places on Earth. If I can't do it right now in these 10 minutes, look for me afterwards, and I'll keep talking a tiny bit about it. So now that you've got a sense of that high canopy and that amazing place, this is how it started. A few years ago, a couple of friends, who now I'm very honored to represent, started this project because they wanted to work to save Colombia's biodiversity and to talk about Colombia's biodiversity. So they acquired a fairly small piece of land, 76 hectares, highly degraded, completely locked down, and overgrazed. After a few years, it grew into over 2,800 hectares. And as you can see, the landscape changed significantly. And there wasn't a lot of active restoration happening at the moment. It was just letting the area be. The forest, and forgive me if I'm a bit too romantic about conservation and about nature, but it is what it is. The forest remembers. Land remembers. And as soon as grazing pressure was released, the forest came back to what it was. And yes, we've given a push here and a push there, and we set up some areas, for example, that proved to be very successful, which are tiny bird perches. When birds are flying from one forest patch to the next, they usually have their bellies full of seeds, to say it nicely, and then they might stop for a break, drop their load, and new trees are planted. And you can see these little patches when you move through the area, through some of the remaining grasslands. You see these tiny little patches of bushes. That's where the perches are. And it might be very difficult to see or to grasp what the difference between 76 to over 2,800 hectares are. So in the map, that's the original patch of land. Small, nice forests, but surrounded by degradation and threat. There, one of our characteristic species, the silver-footed tamarin, which is endemic and vulnerable to extinction. Also the most highly trafficked primate species in Colombia. That's what 2,800 hectares look like. Tiny bit bigger, very proud of it, but as area changes, challenge extrapolate as well. Brown spider monkey, critically endangered and semi-endemic. Up to 10 years ago or so, we thought that it was endemic to Colombia, but then a small population was found in Venezuela. And when it comes to conservation, egos don't count, so we're very happy that there's also brown spider monkeys on the other side of the border. But for us, it's very important because we are home to a critically endangered primate species. A key species for our forest. They disperse seeds, and they keep the forest healthy. They keep the forest diverse. So they're a big, big help to what we're trying to achieve there. We've started working with the local community. We need to engage community. Fortress-type conservation does not work in these areas. If people see us as a restriction, if people see us as someone who's banning them from entering their territory, from moving freely, we will have conflict. And that doesn't do anyone any favors. So we started working very closely with the community, and we've set up agroecology projects. Another key thing, there's no conservation if there is hunger. These are rural, isolated communities. Some of them small, some of them slightly bigger. Some of them depend on fishing on a very overfished river system. So resources are very scarce. And this project also engages with these people. So one of the key projects that we have is food sovereignty for these communities and teaching them how to plant their own food. because we believe if they're happy, if they've got enough to eat, then there's less pressure on our forests. So it's a huge achievement that we've managed to engage these people and bring them on board. People who have worked in the tropics know that engagement with local communities is key for success. If you leave them out of the landscape, there'll be conflict, and no one benefits from conflict. Local communities are now taking part of biodiversity workshops where they recognize the value of the area that they inhabit. We don't tell them they've been there forever, but we just show them the bigger picture, why everyone benefits if conservation works. And we managed to start working on actively restoring some of the most degraded areas. In one of the previous sessions, there was a conversation about what's the success, the survival success of the plants that are being brought in. I wouldn't be able to tell exactly for the areas that we're assisting in restoration, but if it's around 30%, it's a victory. Because what we're trying to do is just give the forest a tiny push forward. The forest knows what to do. We just need to tweak it a tiny bit and accommodate for the spider monkeys, for the tapir, and for some of the other species that will help us continue the work. And it's a very hands-on approach. This man in there, like next to the Jeep, that's the NGO's director, and that's a very old Toyota that goes through mud, goes through water to bring these things, and everyone collaborates into moving these plants and restoring these areas. Our greatest achievements were no longer 2,800, we're over 3,000 hectares at this moment. Challenges keep getting bigger. Securing this huge conservation area is very important for us. There's over 230 bird species, 30 species of reptiles, 30 species of amphibians, over 30 species of mammals so far, and it's just a very threatened ecosystem. It's an ecosystem that is not represented in the National Park Service. Challenges, keeping momentum. We have been growing, we have engaging community, but we can't stop. Every year we need more resources, every year we need more technology. Dendrobates tuncatus, also an endemic poison dart frog. Keeping neighbors engaged and active, also very important. We can't let go. We can't just stop working with them. And of course, managing 3,000 hectares for everyone's benefit. That is a huge challenge. Part of our future vision, what do we have? We have the reserve, we have the human capacity. I belong to a team of over 20 people that work in favor of this project from different fields of knowledge and science. We've got long-term allies, neighbors, support organizations. We have all these activities and we have all these results. What do we need? Resources until we are self-sufficient. And there are different strategies that we're trying out to be self-sufficient. But there is a time gap where we need support, we need financing for the next 5 years or so until 2025 to keep these things going. The management of this area is incredibly costly. There's some areas that need to be fenced, not to keep people out, but to keep cattle out. There are some areas that we need to take care of, inner roads that need to be taken care of so that we can be efficient in moving, in patrolling. We need to keep convincing people that this is the way to go. On the monitoring, we do on-the-ground surveillance. We've got 7 forest rangers that help with patrolling and reporting where they sight animals, where they see big tree species, conservation priority spots. We have passive monitoring through camera trapping and bioacoustics, and now we've got a very ambitious project of mapping biodiversity, including environmental DNA, bioacoustics, and camera trapping to do niche modeling, and so that we can also play around with how we restore the forest to benefit certain species and make sure that it is a healthy ecosystem for everyone. And we have Deforestation Watch. This is the people that I am very proud to represent today, and everyone who's taking part of this huge dream that we called El Silencio and that we so direly need support for. Our contact, this is the amazing Julio. He's our man on the ground, native to Puerto Berrio, which is the closest town to where we are. And that's one of our most beautiful trees. It's supposed to be a video. It was a very nice video. It's one of these emerging ceiba trees that just erupts from the canopy. And that is exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to break through, reach out, and keep working for conservation. It's not only us who benefit, but it's actually everyone who benefits from this place existing and that exists in the future. Thank you very much.